There is a quiet moment in every intelligent person's life when learning stops feeling exciting and starts feeling dangerous. It doesn't happen suddenly. There's no announcement, no failure loud enough to remember. It happens when curiosity is replaced by certainty, when intelligence becomes a shield instead of a doorway. And most people never notice the moment it happens. They just wake up one day and realize they haven't truly learned anything new in years. Not deeply, not humbly, not with their whole mind open. Zen masters understood this centuries ago, and modern psychology is only now beginning to catch up. This is a story of why smart people stop learning, and how Zen psychology explains the invisible trap they fall into. Smart people learn quickly. They recognize patterns faster than others. They connect ideas with ease. They receive praise early in life. And that praise becomes the problem. Psychologists call this identity attachment. When intelligence becomes part of who you are, learning becomes a risk. Because learning means not knowing. And not knowing feels like losing status. So instead of asking questions, smart people start protecting answers. Instead of experimenting, they optimize what already works. Instead of being curious, they become cautious. They don't stop learning because they're incapable. They stop because learning threatens the identity they built. Zen psychology noticed this long before neuroscience gave it a name. Zen teachers had a phrase for this problem. They said, "When the cup is full, nothing more can be poured." In Zen, this isn't poetry. It's a diagnosis. The mind that believes it already understands becomes rigid. It listens only to confirm itself. It learns only what fits. This is why highly educated people can become mentally inflexible, why experts can miss obvious solutions, why experience sometimes becomes a wall instead of a bridge. Zen didn't reject knowledge. It rejected attachment to knowledge. Because the moment you believe "I know," learning quietly dies. A child doesn't learn faster because their brain is superior. They learn faster because they have no reputation to defend. A child doesn't think, "I'm bad at this. I should already know this. This will make me look stupid." They fail openly. They ask obvious questions. They repeat without embarrassment. Zen psychology calls this state Shoshin, beginner's mind. Not ignorance, openness. Modern neuroscience confirms this. When the brain feels psychologically safe to fail, neuroplasticity increases. When fear of judgment rises, learning shuts down. Smart adults often live in a constant state of subtle self-judgment, and the brain responds by choosing safety over growth. Here's the paradox. The faster you succeed early, the more likely you are to stagnate later. Early success teaches you what works, but it also teaches you what to avoid. You stop exploring unfamiliar territory. You double down on strengths. You stop being a student and start being a performer. Zen psychology describes this as mistaking mastery for completion. Real mastery is not confidence. It is tolerance for confusion. The best learners are not the smartest in the room. They are the most comfortable being unfinished. Most people think fear stops learning, but not fear of failure, fear of identity loss. If you are the smart one, what happens when you struggle? If you are the expert, what happens when a beginner outpaces you? So the mind creates an elegant defense. I'm not interested in that. That's not my field. I already know enough. Zen saw through this centuries ago. They taught that ego does not shout, it whispers reasonable excuses. And those whispers sound like wisdom until years pass and nothing changes. Zen psychology offered a solution through a simple structure. Not improvement, not optimization. They described learning as a cycle, not a ladder. First, imitation, then experimentation, then transcendence, and then return. Return to beginner's mind. Not because you failed, but because stagnation begins the moment you stop returning. This is why true masters continue practicing basics, why great artists sketch simple forms, why experienced thinkers revisit foundational ideas. They aren't repeating, they are renewing perception. Information feels like progress. Learning feels uncomfortable. So the modern mind chooses consumption over transformation. Smart people read more books, watch more lectures, collect more frameworks, but avoid the one thing that rewires the brain: being bad at something publicly. Zen psychology teaches that insight does not come from accumulation. It comes from contact. Contact with confusion, contact with effort, contact with not knowing. Without that contact, intelligence becomes decorative. Beginner's mind is not pretending to be ignorant. It is choosing curiosity over certainty. It is saying, I might be wrong. There may be another way. I don't need to protect my image. This single shift reactivates learning at any age. Neuroscience confirms it. Zen anticipated it. The brain does not decline because of time. It declines because of closure. So here is the real question. Not what do you want to learn, but where have you stopped being willing to feel incompetent? Where have you decided, quietly, this is just who I am now? Zen psychology doesn't ask you to become less intelligent. It asks you to become less attached to intelligence. Because intelligence that cannot bend eventually breaks, and learning that cannot humble eventually stops. The beginner's mind is not a phase. It is a choice, one that the smartest people must make again and again and again. If this perspective shifted something in you, stay curious, because the moment you think you've arrived, the path disappears, and the moment you return to not knowing, learning begins again.